I started training when I was 13 years old. I started doing calisthenics, bodyweight exercises, and this is back in 2019 in August. And I did it for two main reasons: to get girls, to be attractive to the opposite gender, and to get the respect of guys. Guys saying, like, oh my God, bro, you're looking so strong, you're looking huge. I wanted those two things. And I still kind of want them, but mainly back then. And I made solid great progress in my training journey. I used to be 173 pounds, 5'7" back when I was 13 years old. I didn't really like how I used to look like. I looked very unhealthy, very fat for my height and my age. And then after 1 year of pure consistency, I dropped down from 173 pounds to 144 pounds. August 2019 to September 2020. And I also grew 2 inches because of puberty. I grew from 5'7" to 5'9". And for many years, I stayed very consistent, uh, training, exercising, only doing body weight exercises, doing pure calisthenics. And because I couldn't afford a gym, and also there were no gyms near my house where I used to live back then. Then 2023 arrives, February. I'm 17 years old in my last year of high school. And that's where I moved to a different location where now there are different gyms nearby. And I hope to my first gym back in February. And then that's when I started to make like quite of like serious novice gains. And in comparison to the average lifter, I was already lifting quite of some heavy weights, not really heavy weights in the big picture, but in comparison to the people that don't have any type of training background, I could already do 35-pound curls when I started in the gym. I could do bench press with the 20 kg bar, and on top of it, 25 pounds on each side, so a total of 50 pounds. And I made a little bit more progress in my physique, in my strength, in the way how I looked. But there was a big caveat. I hit plateau for a year straight. And why is that? Because I didn't know the fundamentals of training. I didn't really know about diet. I only knew a little bit about like what? Protein, fats, carbohydrates. I also knew a little bit of like recovery. Oh yeah, let me just take a 1 day off of training. But really, I didn't know much of what I was doing, and I was in my knowledge depended most on what some other people were saying online. Oh yeah, you should bulk. Oh yeah, you should code. You should main gaining. Oh yeah, you can build muscle while having low body fat percentages, and all of that, all of these statements that were contradicting one another. And as a beginner, you can't really tell what is the right information and what is the wrong one. First, because you don't have the experience as them. They have been training for like what, a decade or even more, and you don't have the same knowledge as them. And also, we have the tendency as human beings to fit in with the groups. So we do what most people are doing. And you and I know that just because something is popular, it doesn't mean that is the right thing. And if you relate to my story, this full guide on how to start training for beginners will walk you through everything that you need to know to make serious gains as a beginner. So sit back, relax, and give 100% of your attention to this video. So to begin, we first have to understand what are the fundamentals of training. And I would like to categorize them in four aspects. The first one is stimulus, and this can be divided between intensity and effort, progressive overload, diet, and recovery. So the first aspect is stimulus. And this is basically how hard you train. But first, we have to understand how the body works in terms of building muscle and strength. So you don't grow just because you show up to the gym. The reason why you grow is because of the external resistance that you're adding to your body. Building muscle is kind of like a defense mechanism. When your body starts to notice that and it's being applied more external resistance than what is used to, there starts to be some changes. For example, one of these changes is that your muscle fibers they break because they cannot handle that much work because you are just not used to, let's say, do a bench press. So your muscle fibers on the chest they kind of break, and your body sends signals, and it goes around through the resources, what you eat, and how you sleep, as we'll talk further in this video. It uses these resources to then build new muscle fibers and also grow as a result and get stronger. So if you are not training hard enough, if you are not applying the right intensity to your body won't grow. You won't build hypertrophy, because building hypertrophy, bro, it actually takes a lot of demand in your body. Resources, the management of the minerals and vitamins, protein synthesis, and all of that. It takes a lot of hard work for your body to make these things. So if you don't give your body a reason, if you just go to the gym but you are not training hard enough so your body can adapt to something which is new, which of course one is muscle and strength, your body won't grow. Now, progressive overload. And this is very important if you want to keep making results at the long term. Progressive overload is basically adding more demand to your body over time, increasing the demand. Your body adapts fast. So you can add more progressive overload through more reps, more weight, better control, or a better full range of motion. And by the way, I'm not saying, once again, we have to understand the first aspect, which is a stimulus. It doesn't matter how many reps you do, how many weights you are lifting, or oh, yeah, I have to do it super slow and the range of motion in control. That doesn't matter if there is no enough intensity being applied on your body. You use these things to add more demands on your body over time. And if you start to notice that your strength is going up, then there is being some changes in your muscles. Increasing in strength is a result of also your muscle growing. Your muscle can be the same if you are lifting heavier, you are doing more work. Something positive is happening within your muscles, your body. Diet. And I know that you most likely you haven't paid that much attention to your diet, and you have to understand this. Diet is the fuel that your body uses to keep making progress in, getting stronger and getting bigger. If your diet is trash, let's say that your training you have the is perfect, like you have the perfect program, you know how many sets, you know how many reps, the right exercises that you have to do, in what fashion you have to perform them. But if your diet is trash, none of that matters, because you can't build muscle, you can't build strength out of thin air. Your body needs resources in order to keep making, like new muscle tissue, because muscle is just tissue at the end. You need to eat enough calories, enough like protein, and enough nutrients overall, because your diet and grants you energy, more strength. It regulates your hormones. Like diet is so important that I will need to make a separate video talking about these things in detail, about what are the right things that you should eat and everything. But just keep this in mind as of now, that your diet plays a huge role to keep making progress at the gym, which is building muscle and building strength and just the good overall functionality of your body. Now, recovery. And especially if you are kind of like this guy as me that is David Goggins mentality. Oh yeah, who's gonna carry the boats? We need to do more work, more work. Chill, relax, man. That's awesome that you have this mentality. In fact, you will do great if you keep with this mentality. But recovery, you have to understand, is everything that happens after your training that allows your body to adapt. This includes your sleep, rest days, stress management, and not overtraining. I don't know if that has happened to you, but sometimes I see other guys training at the gym. Let's say that they are doing chest, yeah, and let's say that they start with the bench press. After training with the bench press using the bar, then I see them doing another variation but using dumbbell curls. Then I see them doing another variation and for this and that type of movement, and they are still training the exact same muscle. Your chest, I'm just putting an example. I'm not gonna overcomplicate in this section. Your chest is divided by three sections: the upper, middle, and lower. I'm talking about like the chest overall. They do bench press with the bar, with the dumbbell curls, with a machine going like this. Like, bro, relax. If you already do it with the bench press, the regular bench press using the bar, you don't have to do anything more. Your chest had other areas, like you can use the pec deck for the middle chest, dips for to focus more on the lower part, depending how you position yourself. Like, relax. You don't have to do seven exercises for one for one small part of your muscle. That's overtraining. And if you are not recovering properly, let's say that you want to train more. If your recovery is not keeping up at the same speed of more training, you will stall your growth. You won't be making any more progress because your body doesn't have the enough resources. Even more, you can be eating more. It's just that rest, recovery, like basically by resting, is so important. Like, just think about it, man. We have sleep as a way to recharge our batteries. We are not kind of like this, like a phone, like a generic object that we need to be plugged into a wall to recharge. We can just rest, sleep, take some days off, and we are recovering. Stimulus is where you start the growth mechanism. Recovery is what finishes this phase. So taking the right enough days of resting, you don't have to train every single day. In fact, I only train 4 days per week. Sleeping the right amount of hours, 8 or even more. That really depends on how many things you do over during the day. The more things you do during the day, the more, of course, you need to sleep. So once again, I'm gonna repeat it once again so you can keep this in mind, because honestly, I wish that someone could have told me this. When you are training, when you are exercising, that's when you stimulate, when you activate the growth mechanism after your training. What everything happens after your training, recovery is what finishes the work, is what actually gives the space to your body to actually adapt and keep making progress. Hypertrophy and strength go together, not separated. When I was in my beginning years of training, I used to be one of those guys, unfortunately, who used to say, I train for hypertrophy, I don't train for strength. Shut up. Shut up. As a natural lifter, and even if you are on steroids, muscle hypertrophy and strength by default they go together. How can you measure? How can you possibly measure that you are getting bigger if your strength is either increasing or decreasing? Like, how can you tell by these things? Because by definition, muscles, they lift weights. So if you are making progress week to week, it is proof, positive proof, that there is something happening within the given muscle. Because once again, your muscles, by definition, they lift weights. So a muscle that is getting stronger, by default, it can't be the same muscle that it used to be. So don't be as one of those guys who used to who says that, oh no, I don't train for I train for hypertrophy, nor strength, because you are thinking of powerlifting. Powerlifting, doing like doing your max rep, that's one type of strength. But overall, if your strength is going up, same thing with your muscles. Is For people that consume steroids, this can be a little bit separated because your tendons and your joints, they don't go at the same level as when you are taking steroids, that your muscles are getting bigger. But as a natural, this is something important to consider. Strength, hypertrophy go intertwined, they go together, not separated. Now for exercise selection. As a novice, your priority should be to focus on the bigger muscles in comparison to the small muscles. They are pointless and you won't notice that much change in your physique, neither strength. I'm not saying the small muscles, the details of your physique are completely pointless and you should drop them in absolute. I'm not saying that. But as of now, as a novice, your priority should be to focus more on the bigger muscles and then later polish your physique by focusing on the small muscles. So you may be asking, why is a mistake to focus on the small muscles early? Well, number one, they fatigue quickly. Small muscles such as your biceps and triceps, they have less total mass. So they tire faster and they limit how much work you can do. Also, the small muscles, they can limit your performance in bigger lifts instead of allowing your large muscles to do the real work. Number two, they don't drive large strength increases. Small muscles, they are assist muscles. If you make them stronger, they don't significantly increase your levels of strength. In comparison, if you were to train the bigger muscles, since they are the ones that by default they carry big strengths, like big strength gains, they come from the bigger muscles, such as your legs, chest, and back, not from like curls or extensions. And lastly, they don't change that much your silhouette, which is your overall shape in your body. Having bigger, like big arms, but not having, let's say, a big chest, a wide and thick back, neither legs, it won't make like a really huge difference. Having, like, having a big muscles, it can. I'm not saying that it cannot totally, but you will benefit way more in changing your silhouette if you focus on building your bigger muscles. People will start to notice a huge difference. Like, trust me, bro. Like, let's say that you build a bigger, like a bigger chest. Let's say that your chest is like that huge. People will notice automatically in comparison if they were to focus, let's say, on your forearms. So focusing on the bigger muscles, they can change really drastically your silhouette. Now, what are the benefits of building the bigger muscles as of first? Number one, they improve your proportions. Muscles such as your legs, back, and chest, they frame your body. And once they are framed very nicely, smaller muscles naturally they will look more balanced and more, how can I say, more balanced and more symmetric. They will just look better if your bigger muscles by default they are, well built. Number two, the bigger muscles improve your hormone signaling. Training the bigger muscles by default, it places a higher systemic stress on your body, meaning that it gives more a stronger anabolic environment for your body, meaning increase of testosterone and growth signaling, which support overall muscle growth, and this includes the smaller muscles. Number three, the big muscles improve your leverage and strength increases. Big muscles, they can improve joint stability and mechanics. Also, building the bigger muscles such as a stronger back, core, and legs allows you to handle more weight safely, which creates a higher ceiling for future strength increases and overall shape everywhere else. So the takeaway of this section, build the engine first, then focus on the details. The bigger muscles create more of your levels of strength, growth, and shape. And the smaller muscles just finishes the look of your physique. Now, you may be asking, Leonardo, then what are the bigger muscles? Those muscles are, well, let's say that they are divided by three categories. The first one, they drive most of your muscle mass. Number two, they drive overall strength increases and they change your physique the fastest. Now, to provide you what are the actual bigger muscles, let's start for the lower body. These are your quadriceps, glutes, hamstrings, and calves. I know that I said calves. And these alone compose most of your total muscle mass. Now, for the upper body, which is the push, your chest, which are the pectorals, your shoulders, especially the anterior and lateral, and your triceps, which are like secondary, but they are, heavily influenced, we can say. They're heavily involved. For an upper body, which is the pull, the back, which are the lats and upper back, and the spinal erectors, and then the biceps, which are secondary, but they are involved. For the summary of the priority muscles, these ones are your legs, back, chest, and shoulders. Arms grow as a consequence of training all of those priority muscles well. Now, which exercises can you perform to train those muscle groups well? I know that you've been waiting for this part, which is one of the most interesting ones. So, to start with the lower body, specifically quadriceps, I will advise to perform two exercises. The first one, the leg press, and the second one, the squat Smith machine. And the reason why I say the squat Smith machine in comparison to the free weight version of it is because you can go to failure, at least close failure, without, with the fear of, oh, I can't go up anymore, and then you drop the weight. Yeah. Unless you have the safeties, like those two parallel bars. But in my personal preference, I would recommend the squat Smith machine because it's just safer and it can allow you to go to a lower, to a, to a full range of motion, like in the more control basically because it's just a machine. But yeah, the leg press and the squat Smith machine, and the way that you perform it, it will be the following. So let's say that you start training legs on Friday. In your first day, you're gonna do the squat Smith machine, one of the most basic exercises, the squat. So after the day is concluded and for the training you did the squat Smith machine version, the next Friday, when you're gonna hit legs again, you're gonna do the leg press instead. So these exercises train the same muscle group, but from different angles. That's why I recommend to do it in that fashion. Now for glutes, I will recommend to do a classic hip thrust. And I know I'm a man, I don't need to train glutes. Shut up. This exercise doesn't make you gain. In fact, it gives you a well-shaped body because the glutes are just like the shoulders of your upper body. If they are not trained well, you just look a little bit like weird. So same thing goes with your glutes. You don't have to go crazy on it. Just pull a little bit of weight, and just do it. No need to feel awkward about it. Now, for hamstrings, and trust me, training hamstrings is very, very important to give you that 3D leg, and it's also a very, very big part of your leg. So with hamstrings, you're gonna perform the Romanian deadlift. This exercise is wonderful, especially to give you that stretch in the hamstrings, which is especially needed to make it grow. And the next one that I will recommend will be the hamstring curls. And you're gonna do two variants, similar to the way that we did with the quadriceps. You're gonna start your first day doing the classic and seated hamstring curl. And then in the next day, when you're gonna train hamstrings again, let's say on Tuesday, you train on the previous Tuesday, you did the hamstring and hamstring curl seated. The next Tuesday, you're gonna do it instead rested because you are hitting the muscle from different angles. And there is a benefit as well doing the hamstring curl rested, which is there is a muscle. I will put it up on the screen which muscle and trains specifically. Very good. These two exercises, you don't need to do more to train the hamstrings. For the calves, which is the last part of the lower body section, you're gonna perform two exercises. The first one is gonna be the regular standing calf raise, and the second exercise is gonna be calf raises, but you're gonna do it seated instead. And you're not gonna alternate these two because they actually train different sections of the calf. Is not only the angle. So for the first exercise, which is the regular standing calf raise, is very good because it trains the upper portion of your calf, and also very good to create this, build the size and shape of your calf. And for the second exercise, which is the sitting version of the calf raise, is very good to develop the overall lower lower portion of your calf, and also very good to build the thickness and density of it. Now, talking about the upper body, and I know that you've been waiting so long for this because who really cares about training the lower body? Yeah, I'm just kidding. Make sure to train it well because it's as important as the upper body. So for the upper body, we're gonna focus now on the push movements. And to start with the movements, let's talk about the chest specifically. So the first exercise you're gonna perform, the golden exercise, it is going to be the flat bench press. You can do it with dumbbells or you can do it with a bar. It really doesn't matter. And what makes this exercise golden is because this exercise trains all sections of your chest, which is the upper, middle, and lower section. And the second exercise, which trains the middle section of your chest, but also gives a lot of the stretch and also trains very well the inner portion and like the inner and section of your chest here, like this division is gonna be the pec deck. You're gonna use the pec deck machine to train your chest, or also you can do dumbbell flies in a bench. But I will recommend more of the pec deck because you can progressive overload fairly easy in comparison to dumbbell flies. Now for shoulders, and it's very important to train them because it makes a very huge difference in your physique, especially to have the V shape. That's what all males want in here. So we're gonna perform three exercises. The first one is gonna be an overhead press, which contributes to train the frontier side of your shoulder. And to progressive overload in this exercise, as at least from my experience, the stronger you're getting, you will become. It's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable in your lower back. Even using a belt, it will be a little bit uncomfortable because you're just pulling a lot of tension in your back. So the stronger you get and you see that your lower back is getting comfortable even after using a belt, you can transition from an exercise that you don't have to use your back to stabilize yourself. You can do it seated, either using dumbbells or even the barbell as well, or using a machine for it. Now, the second exercise is going to be the regular lateral dumbbell raises, which trains the lateral heads of your shoulder. And lastly, which is a very small muscle, but if you train it well, it makes a huge difference, not only in your shoulder, but also in your back. And that is the rear delt. You can do it with dumbbells, you can do it with cables. I do it with cables personally, and also it's easier as well to progressive overload in this. And using cables, at least in my experience. For the last section of the push movements within the upper body, this is going to be for triceps. And the first exercise that you're going to perform is going to be dips. And dips is such a good exercise because it doesn't only train your triceps, but also trains your chest and your shoulders. Specifically for the chest, it trains the lower section of your chest, and for the shoulders, the front delt. It's one of the best exercises that you can perform as of compound exercises. As an advice, if you are not strong enough to perform dips only using your body weight, you can either use a machine that a lot of gyms have, which is kind of like this machine that has like a bench where you can put your knees on it, and you don't have to worry that much. Like if it's very hard for you to do to go up, this machine will help you, will assist you to go up, and then you just need to focus on the or put more of your strength, which is in the lower part of the movement. And the stronger you get, you'll then get to perform this exercise only using your body weight. And the stronger you get, if using your body weight is fairly easy for you, you can do more than 12 reps using your body weight. You can add weight to yourself using a belt with a chain, or using a machine specifically where you are just seated, but you are imitating the same movement of the dip. And the main muscle that dips and train is the long head. Now, and the second exercise is gonna be triceps extension. It's not very complicated to perform this exercise. It trains also your long head, but you are just focusing on training that and muscle group instead of doing like dips, which dips doesn't only train your tricep, but also trains your chest and your shoulders, so it can fatigue you more in comparison to only doing the tricep extension size. It's only training one muscle group. Now, to conclude this section of the list of exercises that you will perform to train the bigger muscles, also within the upper body, we're going to be talking about the pull movements. And within the pull movements, let's focus on the lats, which contributes a lot to giving you that V tape. And the first exercise that you're going to perform for the lats is gonna be the lat pull down using the standard grip, which is without wide grip basically. And this exercise is very good to train the upper lats and the outer lats. And the second exercise is gonna be the close grip palm pull down, where it trains very well the mid and lower lats. And also there is a bit of involvement in your biceps. Now to train the upper back, which is very important to give you the thickness in your back, the first exercise is going to be the regular barbell row, or you can also use a dumbbell, but you will need to stabilize yourself. You can support yourself using a bench. And the second exercise is going to be and chest supported rows. It gives you more stability. You don't need to depend a lot in stabilizing yourself and your lower back, which is a benefit that the regular barbell row or the dumbbell row gives you. And this exercise, which is the chest supported rows, it's gonna be fairly quicker for you to progressive overload in comparison to the barbell row because you're just stabilizing yourself. And you're not gonna alternate these two exercises depending on the day that you're training your back. You're gonna perform it in different days. And I've been talking a lot about alternating or just doing the same and doing these exercises but within different days. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna talk about these things more in detail when we are in the section of splits. Lastly, to train the biceps, you're gonna perform the classic exercise, which is gonna be the bicep curl. And you can do it with a dumbbell or you can do it with the barbell instead. And this exercise is very good to train both heads of the biceps, which is the long head and the short head. Now let's talk about how to perform the exercises. And within this section, I'm going to divide it within multiple subsections. And the first subsection is going to be what is the negative, positive, and contraction phase of a movement. So I'm going to use the example of performing a bicep curl with the imaginary weights that I have in here. So the negative phase is basically when your muscle is becoming extended, as you can see here for the bicep. The bicep now is extended fully. That is the negative phase of a movement when performing an exercise. And for the positive phase is where basically I'm getting the weight up when the muscle is going to transition to be contracted fully, as you can see here. And the contraction phase, as the name states, is when the muscle is contracted as its fullest. And something to keep in mind, which is very important to create, well, to cause hypertrophy when performing an exercise, is that the muscle must stay under tension at all times. So it basically is not allowed to bounce the weight or doing it super fast because you can just injure yourself. These three phases is what causes a full range of motion. I'm not saying that you have to do all of those three perfectly, oh yeah, I need to do it perfectly. Yeah, and under tension, super slow. Yeah. No, I'm not talking about that. It's just having the intention of performing the movement fully. Now for the second subsection, at what tempo should you perform the given exercise? So the most important phase of the previous subsection that we just talked about, of the negative, positive, contracting phase, the most important phase of the movement is the negative phase. That's the phase that builds the most muscle, and also naturally you are at your strongest when lowering the weight in comparison to lifting it. And I'm not saying that you have to go super slow. You can, for example, count between 2 to 3 seconds. And the positive phase, you should be very explosive in it to not lose strength. I'm not saying to go like whoosh, it's like super explosive, but you don't have to go that slow in comparison to the negative phase. And of course, each rep that you perform, you should be contracting the muscle. So, and having this philosophy in mind, it should look like this. And I'm gonna use again the bicycle. I know you see my imaginary weight. So like this. So I start with the contraction phase. So for the negative, 1, 2, 3, up, 1, 2, 3, up. So that's it for this subsection. Now for the third subsection, and yes, I know I just turned on the lights because it just turned in dark where I am right now. Well, anyways, talking about the third subsection is going to be sets. And I need to explain to you and what are the different types of sets that we have. The first one is the working set. The working set and focus on building strength and muscle. And by the amount of reps that a working set is composed by, it's just basically where you're just leaving 1 or 2 reps in reserve. You are pushing hard, but you are not failing. You are not going to failure. And for the top sets, and this one is very good for basically progression and pushing beyond limits. You can leave it at 0 or 1 reps in reserve, where basically you're just going to failure or beyond failure. You have someone that can help you on this. The working set is very good for compound exercises. And compound exercise is basically an exercise which includes a lot of muscle groups. For example, the bench press. The bench press doesn't only train your chest, but also trains your shoulders and triceps, because your shoulders, specifically the front side of your shoulder, and the triceps, they work as assistant and muscle groups that can help with the bench press. So working sets are fantastic for compound exercises because you generally don't want to go to failure in those exercises. if you want to not only build muscle, but also to progress in terms of strength. And the top sets are very good for isolation exercises, which is the opposite of the compound, which, the isolation trains only one muscle group, for example, triceps extension. There you can focus on going to failure, leaving or 0 to 1 reps in reserve, because also they cause less fatigue in comparison to the compound exercise, because again, we are just training one muscle group. Now for the last subsection, which is the fourth one, how many repetitions you perform for each given exercise. So for the compound exercises, you can perform between a range of 5 to 10 repetitions, and for the isolation exercises, 8 to 15 repetitions. And by the way, a disclaimer, this is not an objective, universal rep range that you should perform. This is more of a general guideline to keep in mind. It really it doesn't matter as much, that you have to do it in this exact range of repetitions. And the reason why the compound exercises require less repetitions in comparison to the isolation ones is because the compound exercises trains more muscle groups in comparison to the isolation ones. You fatigue yourself more, just doing a compound exercise like, doing a bench press. Isolation exercises, since you are only training one muscle group, you can focus on doing it in a higher rep range. All right, now for the other section, which is progression over time. And I know you are looking at me right now with a different shirt. I'm recording this section in a different day. It's just that I have been quite busy and I couldn't really finish the videos. But let's make it happen now. Yep. So progression over time. So you may be asking, okay, Leo, how can I progress, at the gym? How can I keep making sure that I'm gaining hypertrophy? Well, the way to do it is actually by increasing strength. And just remember, as I told you in the video, if you are with the code with that, oh no, I don't train for strength, I train for hypertrophy. Well, how can you possibly measure your gains, your muscle gains, without putting into accountability strength? And if you are on steroids, if you are consuming some external substances, yeah, sure, you can separate them more. But especially when you are training as a natural, hypertrophy and strength go together, not separated, as I just mentioned in the earlier section of the video. Muscle cannot be the same if strength is going up. What, this mosquito, bro? Interrupting me in my video. Yeah, anyways. Um, the muscle cannot be the same if you are gaining strength. There has to be some change going on within the muscle in order that the muscle is getting strong. So now practically as an actionable step, how do you actually increase like your muscles, and basically you are progressing over time? Well, this can be done by increasing the amount of reps that you are doing. Let's say that you did a bench press for 100 pounds, 8 reps. You are progressing overloaded, like basically increasing the levels of difficulty or resistance by adding, let's say, 2 reps. Instead of 8 reps on the bench press for 100 pounds, you are doing it for 10 reps. Or let's say that for 8 reps, instead of doing 100 pounds, you are doing 105 pounds or 110 pounds for 8 reps. But you're not necessarily like need to increase the weight or the reps. Also, it counts if you are improving your form or the range of motion. This also counts as well. And to make it easy for yourself, and so this is a mistake that I done in the beginning. Yeah, that I was going to the gym. I was very consistent, going 5 days per week, but I wasn't logging the amount of reps that I was doing, the weight that I was doing the exercise with. So I kind of was just like going blindly. I will memorize all the exercises that I will have to do for the day, but I wasn't really tracking my progress. So you will see me for like 2 months straight doing the same amount of reps for the same amount of weight. So writing it down on a piece of paper or on your phone in the notepad app, you can track it there. For example, on Tuesday and 30th December 2025, I did a flat bench press with the barbell for 100 pounds, 8 reps. And then the next time, let's say that you increase a little bit more, instead of 100 pounds, do it now for 105 pounds. That's how you track it, basically. So this is all for this section of how to progress. Now let's talk about splits. And this is going to be the last section that I'm going to cover. As a disclaimer, I want to mention that within all of these splits, I'm not going to go in detail about each single one of them because I really don't have much experience or non-experience in all of them. I just have tried a few, and one of those few, one has really worked for me. And I want to speak about that later on the video for the splits that I recommend for you as a beginner. So the first split is going to be 3 days per week. Within this split can be divided in the days such as Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as an example. Within each workout, this includes lower body movements, push movements, pull movements, and within all of these and workouts, there can be some type of isolation for arms, calves, or even abs. This is at least in my for my knowledge and also from my experience, I have tried it. This is very good for people who are truly beginners at the gym, and you don't need to spend that much time also because you're only training 3 days per week, and it gets you to practice on the big compound lifts such as bench press, deadlifts, and squats, etc. And again, amazing for beginners because beginners don't really need to try a million exercises to make progress. From little exposure, they can make great gains, great and like strength increases. Of course, if intensity is right. So, for beginners and people who have limited time, this split is awesome. Now, for the next split, it is training 4 days per week. Within this type of split, this can also be considered with the upper lower. So this can be divided like this. And you are training Monday, Tuesday, you rest, then Thursday and Friday. And Monday you are doing upper, then on Tuesday you are doing lower, you take a day off on Wednesday, and then you repeat again on Thursday and Friday, Thursday upper, Friday lower. And within each day of training, like let's say for the upper includes muscle groups such as your chest, back, shoulders, and arms in general. And for the lower body, this can include hamstrings, quads, glutes, and calves. And this type of training, this type of split is awesome for people who have a little bit more, a little bit more of time. And you can get to manage your time well. You have more time to recover between the sessions within your workouts. And also, it gives you this sweet spot of making muscle for most people, which is training each muscle group twice per week, in comparison to the 3 day split weekend type of training when your and time of training is quite capped, is quite limited in comparison to the 4 days per week upper lower, where you have more time and to train each muscle group, and you can add a little bit more consistency, and you don't need to put that much intensity. I mean, of course, you need to, like, intensity needs to be on the right spot always, but you don't need much intensity because you are adding a little bit more frequency, adding a little bit more volume. So it's kind of like in the sweet spot for most people to make progress, and especially people who are and getting to the level of being an intermediate. Now for the next split, this is going to be training 6 days per week. Also consider the push pull legs. And you probably have heard about this split. It's like very popular, and it has become very popular with like bodybuilders such as Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the training days are divided in the following. On the push days, you are training stuff like chest, shoulders, and triceps. For the pull days, you're training back and biceps. And for the leg days, you're just basically training like the lower body, glutes, hamstring, quads, calves, you know. So yeah, so this can look like this. So Monday push and Tuesday pull, Wednesday legs, then you take a day off on Thursday, then you repeat it again and in the same order for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and so on and so forth. And this type of training is very good to do like more volume, do more of isolation work. And this type of training is and awesome for people who are already intermediates or even advanced, people who really have like a good foundation, good knowledge of how to make a how to do progressive overload, how to train and hard enough. But there is a caveat with this split, and the caveat is that it demands a lot of your body. Like just think about it, you are training 6 days per week, where usually the volume is quite high as well, and you will not be allowed to train as like with that much intensity because you are training more frequently. And in fact, I'm gonna show an image right now, like kind of like a pyramid right now, where it's showing like intensity, frequency, and volume. And within this pyramid, I want to reflect that if one is becoming the priority, the rest has to go down by default, just because your body is quite limited in resources. We don't have infinite resources. It's not like the more you train, the more resources you get in your body. No, the more limited they get, because your body is demanding more food to keep up with the muscle and the strength, recovery. The bigger and stronger you're getting, the more your body demands. So for this type of training, like sleep, like recovery and nutrition, they need to be on point. And this type of split is not ideal for beginners. Matter of fact, especially like that, even for like most people, this type of split is not really like that efficient. Is quite popular for people who consume external substances because they can keep it up because they are getting all of these um, substances that can help them manage recovery, strength, and like they get those benefits out of it. But for people who are naturals, you are not gonna make really much progress, and you can be deluded by. And oh well, but I'm actually Leo. I'm actually feeling like quite fatigued from the training. I'm training hard, so of course I'm making progress, right? Not really, because you can be deluded that you're making like progress because you are doing more volume than the intensity that you are doing between each set. Because as I mentioned previously with the pyramid, if one is going up, if one is becoming the priority by default, all of the other two have to go down by default. If you are adding more volume, more frequency, by default intensity has to go down. Or if you are doing more of intensity work, by default frequency and volume and has to go down, so on and so forth. Now for the last split that I'm going to cover, this is the bro split. And the bro split is composed by the following way, where each muscle group is trained and once per week, once every 7 days. For example, this has a chest day, back day, shoulders day, arms day, and leg day. And this type of training emphasizes more of like high volume type of training, and it really tries to isolate each muscle group like to the teeth. And it became really popular because it's quite easy to understand for some people. It is quite satisfying for some people to do, and also became really really popular because of mainstream bodybuilding culture. The main constraint with this type of split is that it requires low skill acquisition. You are not training that consistent each muscle group. You're only training each muscle group once per week, which is not really like optimal for consistency, especially when you are a beginner, where the thing that you want the most is consistency, so you can like learn more and more and getting used to the training. It reduces weekly growth stimulus for naturals. As I mentioned previously, the sweet spot for most people to make gains, not only for muscle but also for strength, is training each muscle group twice per week. And also, you need to do a lot, like I'm talking about, like a lot of volume to overcompensate for basically because you're only training each muscle group once per week, once every 7 days. For which type of people this split is awesome? For advanced lifters, for enhanced lifters, and yeah, this is the only people that I can think of who this type of training is really good for, because for beginners, it's very overkilling because of the amount of volume, and you are not training that consistent either. It's only very good. Not only if you are like advanced lifter, but also if you are enhanced, or in general for if you are the type of individual who you really know what you are doing, you have diet, recovery, and train like checked. Like there are no mistakes in there. But for beginners, and for me certainly when I was a beginner, this split is not optimal at all. Now for the splits that I recommend for you as a beginner or even for the long term are the following. The first one is training 3 days per week. This is awesome because you are allowing yourself a high frequency, meaning that you are learning faster, exposing your body through compound lifts such as bench press, squats, deadlifts, etc., and allows you for your body to adapt and quickly, and also create a strong muscle, strong mind muscle connection early on. You are spending less time at the gym, so it's more and efficient for managing time in case you are like quite busy and you cannot really spend that much time in the gym. And also you are giving to your body more time to recover, so in a couple of days you can train again the same muscle group without overtraining. You are allowing yourself to gain strength and quickly, because again you're not only recovering faster because you have a lot of days to recover, but also the constant exposure of these movements, especially the compound lifts. That's one of the beauties of this type of split, that includes a lot of compound lifts to overcompensate as you're not training that much, and so you don't have that much time to train like quite more of the isolation exercises. You are exposing yourself more to tremor of the compound lifts, creating a stronger neural adaptation to your body, which it leads to strength gains, and strength gains leads to muscle gains. So in a nutshell, this split is awesome for people who are absolute beginners, people who have a busy schedule, people who are learning proper form, and people who are building a base in their training. And for upper and lower, 4 times per week, this is my current split. And why this is a long term winner. First and foremost, you get to distribute better your training than training your entire body. So you can get more of a like to focus better in each session. Still, you can handle recovery very well because you still have more days and still distributed to recover, and also you are not training like every single muscle of your body within the day. As I said, like it's only upper and lower. Also, this type of training is very good for and stimulating more strength and hypertrophy over the long term because you are training twice per week in comparison to the full body in the 3 days per week split of training. So this has been it for this full guide in how to start training for beginners. And to conclude this video, I would like to tell you this, if I could go back and tell this to my younger self. And it's not really about what exercise you do or what split you are following. What really matters is that you are training hard enough, you are eating properly, you are recovering like it matters, and you stop chasing the shortcuts. Results come when you stop rushing them.